Hey, grown folks, reminisce with some feel-good music as we have grown conversations.
Join us on our journey as we apply knowledge to power. For together, we are better.
Every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Grown Folks Radio, Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin.
1 2 1 2. Here we go. It's my time to rise. It's my time to shine. It's my time to live. It's my time to fly. It's my time. It's my time.
And it's Grown Folks time. Welcome, Grown Folks. As always, thank you for joining us on this journey. And to all the new listeners, welcome to the Grown Folks family. This is Everyday Talk with your girl, Carmen, and your boy, Kevin.
What's up, fam? Happy Eli Manning Retires Day.
Oh, that's what we're going with.
That is not on the calendar.
Absolutely, but it is today, though. Sorry. Hey, guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, family, for those of us who are joining us over on the Chatterbox Nichelle, hi. As always, family, if you have not yet followed and liked us, make sure to do so. We are on all social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And visit us on gfrworldwide.com for further information. Today, we are on part 3 of the Self-Love series. And we are going to speak, I'm really excited about this part because we're going to speak on the emotional journey of the self-love. And so just to really give a small sentence in regards to that is the process you go through as you learn what self-love is about and how to apply it into your life and how to not feel guilty about it. And then, of course, this came out because on part 2, we were talking about it, had conversations off air. And of course, there were a lot of questions that arose from that. So are you guys ready? Are you guys excited? You guys got to be
So
excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think, this has been a standing area of opportunity for a lot of our listeners, for us on a personal level, and, for the listeners, the family members, that emotional connection and how it affects every part of our life, so showing that self-love is no different.
Yes, I totally agree with that. But you know how we get, family, before we get into these deep conversations, we like to give you some music to celebrate it.
Absolutely.
Before we start marinating in these conversations.
Fam, our indie artist of the month, Vertical Perspective, right out of Cape Town, South Africa. Yeah, their music is amazing. We're going to jump right into it, fam. Saved by Grace, right here. Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin.
On Grown Folks Radio.
He shed for me as the road marked out will lead him to the cross. He fully knew the agony as his body would be broken for the lost, and as the nails of steel pierce those loving hands, it drew the grace by which I'm saved, the grace by which I stand, saved by grace at Calvary. Jesus' blood has paid the price, and now I stand in victory.
is mine. And I'm surrounded by the wonder of the Father's love divine. And as he drew his final breath and died for me, the greatest battle there was finally won when he cried out, "It is done." The symbol of the cross is to the world love. Foolishness with all its mystery. May we never ever forget through eternity. That's where God forgave our sins through Christ and gave us liberty. Liberty. Saved by grace at Calvary. Jesus' blood has paid the price. And now I stand in victory. Saved by grace. The work is done. Satan's power has been broken by the love of God's dear Son. For in Him I place my faith. I've been forgiven, saved by grace. I've been forgiven, saved by grace. I've been forgiven, saved by grace. Oh, saved by
Changing the mindset. We're breaking the mold, bringing back the love and care at Grown Folks Radio, Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin.
All right, fam. That was Vertical Perspective, Saved by Grace.
Yes, Nichelle, who's listening to us at the Chatterbox, if you guys are not there, make sure to join us on Facebook. We are live. She said, really nice song full of worship. I agree.
It's a great song. I mean, you know, it's one of those songs where once you learn the words, it's a very easy song to sing with.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I agree. We want to say hello to the family who's on. Nichelle, Miss Deborah. Dan apparently is on too.
Mr. O'Toole.
Thank you for joining us and for listening to us. Hey, if you guys are out there, say hello to us. We'll love to, engage with you in this conversation. So, your mom replied to your happy Eli Manning retirement day.
Yeah, she has this thing about, clearly she thinks I'm against her, when it comes to the Super Bowl, but I'm not really. I'm not. I'm cheering for San Francisco I believe San Francisco is going to do it in the Super Bowl. I think they're going to pull it off. I think that defensive front is too much for Kansas City.
Okay. Well, she said it's happy the 49ers are going to Super Bowl day. So that's what we're gonna go with.
Okay,
that.
We'll go with that.
We'll just ride with that.
Because nobody likes Eli anyway.
Eli.
Manny.
Oh, with Manny.
Anyway,
All right, this will turn into a football conversation in a hot second, family.
Yes, it
So let's
will.
regroup. Let's regroup. Hey, family, you know how we've been doing throughout the series. Well, in the entire news segment that we have at it, where Kevin has a moment where he gives tips and information and knowledge to the fellas, to the men in the family. It's something that has come from his heart, something God has placed in his heart to be able to share with others, in an effort to just help and in areas and of opportunity. So we're excited to hear what he's got going on today with Kevin's Manly Manners. That's where you run? You run for the Super Bowl?
well, yeah. I mean, if Tampa was in the Super Bowl, that's what it sound like. Hashtag Go Tampa. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to my segment of the show, Kevin's Manly Manners, where I simply give some manly advice to the men in the family to help them get through certain situations.
Yes.
Okay. Tonight, fam, we're going to talk about breaking old habits and starting new habits. I think we all have experienced that in, some facet of life, where, we just have bad habits and it's hard to break them and start new ones, especially, around New Year's where everybody wants to lose weight and start working out and all that. And it kind of fades to black in February. You know what I'm saying?
If it makes it to that.
Yeah, if it makes it to that. Yeah.
It makes it to that. It's when you get to March and it just becomes all of a sudden it's nice and cool or warm outside. You want to go elsewhere instead into the gym.
Wow.
Things start to change.
Yeah, I know. I continue to struggle with that. Okay, guys. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about 5 really quick reasons or suggestions when you're breaking old habits and starting new habits, okay? So number 1, fam, do not be vague, okay? Be specific with the habit that you're trying to start. And what we're ultimately trying to say is, if you're trying to, eat healthy, for example, I guess, since, we're talking about that. If you're trying to eat healthy, be specific as to what you want to include in your daily consumption.
Yeah.
All right.
Preparation.
Yeah, preparation. What are you going to do specifically to help you achieve your goal? Right. Don't leave that to be vague. All right, so this year I'm going to start eating healthy. Well, what all does that entail? Really?
Right. So something like, I'm going to include more veggies in my meals.
Right.
Okay.
Something like that. Or I'm going to drink 2 gallons of water a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure if that's healthy.
All right. Number 2, guys, be realistic. When making changes, we sometimes fail to be realistic with our expectations, right? Make small steps to build you up to your ultimate goal. I think the thing that you could call this would be something false hope syndrome.
Yes.
Right. So, you say you're going to go to the gym, you're going to, we're getting up at 6:00 in the morning and we're going to go to the gym 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Right.
That Carmen and I have lived that life.
Yeah.
And, 5:00, 6:00 comes and I'm like, Alexa, turn off the alarm. All right. That's me being.
Well, at least, I'm glad he didn't say Carmen.
No, this is a Kevin moment. This is Kevin being transparent, fam. All right. So I have that false hope syndrome sometimes. Okay. All right. So number 3, guys, one habit. Focus on one thing that you want to change. Okay. And turn that into a habit. All right, your new habit that you're forming, focus on one. Don't focus on 4 and 5 things, because you're not going to, in all honesty, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
And then you're going to stop. So focus on one specific habit that you're trying to change it, and then move on to the next one. Okay?
That's good.
Number 4, Get support. Ask your friends and family for support. It's hard to break old habits and start a new one when you're doing it by yourself. It's easier to, cheat yourself and, or convince yourself, I guess is the better word.
Both.
Both, yeah. I'm going to not go to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. And you're not going to the gym tomorrow. But if you have somebody with you, your boy, your significant other, that can hold you accountable to help you achieve your goals, that's where you want to be at.
Push
Right?
each other.
All right. Number 5, expect setbacks. Change is gradual. Let me say that again. Healthy change is gradual. And it does not necessarily happen overnight. Okay, guys. So what we're ultimately saying is take baby steps. If you want to get out here and start working out, eating healthy, just being more active, know your limits to start. Don't get out here and do way more than you want to. And then when you're not able to achieve it, you're going to lose interest because you're going to, not feel comfortable. Right. So going back and forth is common. Remember that any effort will help you reach your goal. Okay. Guys, listen, the longer you stick to your new habit, the more likely it will become natural. And then you won't even have to think about it. Okay. So that will conclude Kevin's Manly Manners.
Nice.
Good stuff.
I actually like those.
Yeah, they're really good as far as being specific, because I know a lot of people aren't specific with what they want.
Yeah, and it's important. I mean, and once again, it's all about planting that seed.
Yep.
Right. If you listening to the show, fam, and you're working out more or eating healthy is one of the things you want to do, but you remembered on the show with Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin, Grown Folks Radio Worldwide, that I need to be specific as to what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to just focus on one habit. That's a seed of empowerment.
Right.
And that's a win.
And when you have that one down packed, then you move on to the next one.
Boom. And then you can call me and I give you support all day.
You sure will.
Yes, I will.
Very nice, very nice. That's I really enjoyed those. So I want to take a moment and say hello to those who have joined us. Dwayne is on. Hi, Dwayne. Junie is on. Joel is on. And Mr. Larry, because he calls me baby girl. And he said, hey, baby girl. Hi, Mr. Larry. Don't hate. That's all I got to say. Don't hate.
What's up, sir?
That's it.
Hey, family, it was great. That segment of Manly Manners, totally loved it. I think anybody can use that. We are going to dive right into our part 3 of self-love and talk about the emotional journey. But, as always, we're always talking about before we do, we always want to make sure that we make mention.
Family, every week we're going to talk about Jeremiah 29:13, which simply says, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Carmen and I, Grown Folks Radio, Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin, we personally invite you to seek Christ. Make him first. Seek him in everything you do so you can see and find him in your life and watch your life change. I promise you.
Amen.
Amen. I don't think I need to say anything after that. I think that's self-explanatory. That's really good. I couldn't agree more. That's really awesome. We want to provide a small disclaimer, guys, as we continue to speak on the self-love series and with anything, right? We are not mental health professionals. We are not diagnosing. We are simply just coming to the table in family, in conversation, and we just want to encourage you that to be able to explore these areas and to give you some just tips and ideas that could help you along the path, and to remind you if there's any further digging that you need to do, or you see that these are areas that would benefit from any type of professional help, don't be afraid to do so. I did.
We encourage change, but we also let you know, fam, sometimes you're not going to like what you see, and that's okay. If you need more assistance, outside of just us coming to the table and talking as family, if you need that professional assistance, please, fam, love yourself enough to go get that help.
Yes.
Yeah. I did. All right. So for the past 3 shows, we've been talking about self-love, right? And among many things we've shared has been about understanding self-love, self-care, tips on steps to take, kind of how to be able to identify certain actions or reactions. And based on our last show, though, we dove into some deep conversation after the show with various people. So in that conversation, what we found that there were a lot of questions that had to do with the emotional side of self-love and that type of journey, specifically how to deal with the emotions that come when part of showing your self-love is releasing habits or releasing others or just releasing from jobs, depending on where that area is, right, that you will find yourself. So we want to talk about that and get into those type of conversations because it was a really aha moment for us as well as we were talking about it and we were having these conversations. Like it was, we went through that path and we still go through those paths. Depending on the areas that you're talking about, people still continue to improve that and mold that. I mean, there's nothing like self-improvement. And no matter how well together you are, there's always that area where we can always just make it better and better and better and better. Right. Sort of those breaking old habits, creating the new habits. That's kind of lands in the same way, right?
Yes, it does. There it does. Can I, real quick, I want to invite the family to we truly want to invite you guys to engage in this conversation. The whole point of the Facebook Live, fam, is for us to be able to talk to you, for us to be able to communicate. Let us know any experiences that you have had, any ideas, anything that's in relation to whatever we have going on. Okay, this is not just about the 3 of us here in the studio. This is about us as a family, right? This is a judgment-free zone. There's no judgment here, fam. Okay, so we ask that you engage. If there's something that you like, please let us know. Show us the hearts. Show us the thumbs up. This is important. This is what we do. Everyday talk. Carmen and Kevin, Grown Folks Radio, worldwide.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and start. What we want to talk about is in regards to emotions, let's just take that a little bit back, right? Because a lot of times we can easily talk about, or we can easily find or identify certain types of emotions or reactions or actions on people, and we look at them. And so we want to talk about that as a child, we kind of get our blueprint. It's kind of our how-to book on how to handle situations.
Absolutely.
Right? And how to handle people, how to handle authority. And everybody has a different type of blueprint, right? We all come from different walks. We've all experienced different type of things. And everyone will initially handle situations according to the blueprint that was learned.
I agree.
Yep.
150 million %.
Right. And so if your how-to blueprint, it's not necessarily the best, or it was, the reaction or the actions were always at a higher level emotionally or intensity, then those are areas that we want to encourage to kind of analyze and acknowledge, right? Those are those in the mirror moments, to being transparent with yourself. And what we want to talk about, is part of, in the male perspective, right? When you come to that area where maybe you have learned in your life, are there areas that come into mind that you can actually say on the emotional side, maybe not so much, you learned this, but not this part of the emotion?
Yeah, I mean, I know. Can I jump in?
Go ahead.
Okay, yes, and it going to that men's group that I, with that's associated with the church, it really opened up my eyes on, my life and what I've been, exposed to. And the one thing that stands out for me as a man now is my father and all the men in my life were classified. I would classify them as providers. Okay, they were providers. What that means, fam, is that these guys, my father, stepfather, men in my life, they provided for the family, right? They went out, they worked ridiculous hours to make sure that the house really never needed anything, right? Okay, and with that being said, there were areas where they weren't as strong as in. Okay, so me being a guy in that environment, I kind of did the same thing. I'm known as a worker. I work in retail. I worked in, collections, and, I'm working ridiculous hours. So I was doing the same thing, and it wasn't until my son made a comment to me about his perception of that really warranted me to change as a man, as a father, to change what I knew. It wasn't what I knew was bad. It was just what I knew. It was the blueprint that I had to pull from.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So, right. It was enough for me to look at myself in the mirror, become transparent to seeing, transparent with myself to see what's really standing here. And if I needed to change that. I didn't want my son to feel the things that I felt growing up.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's very common, though, when you think about it, maybe kind of in our era, in our parents' era, in our grandparents' era, the men were always the provider.
Right.
And they were always hard at work. And then, so that meant they weren't necessarily available for the games and available for other things.
Right.
And sometimes they were, and sometimes they weren't. But there's also that stigmatism that, boys don't cry. I remember that. I remember growing up, boys don't cry. Yeah. So that's kind of the part also where we talk about emotions. It kind of, if a young boy wanted to cry because he was hurt or because someone hurt his feelings or because, somebody left, boys don't cry.
Right.
So I'm not a guy. I can't speak on that on the male perspective side. What are your thoughts in regards to that? Is there any truth to that?
Oh, yeah. For me, as far as growing up, my dad was always available per phone call. But I didn't have a cell phone at that time, so
he had a beeper.
Yeah, a beeper. So for me, as far as I didn't really have my dad physically with me,
Right.
So in growing up, I took the side of other friends or family members that I would deal with, and a lot of my family is military, and it's always like, get over it. You're fine. Get up.
Yeah.
Walking away, don't cry, you're a man, stand up and walk it off.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very true.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember that specifically, like a young girl, like listening to the dads telling especially coming from a Hispanic household, right? It's very machismo going on. So boys don't cry.
You better shut it up.
Yeah.
You better shut it
don't
up.
cry. So,
No matter what.
I think that for the female perspective, though, right, what we learned growing up, or at least I can speak of this, my experience, there was a two-side of watching my mom, right? She was hardworking, and she was willing to go for anything, and she did everything possible, and she was very sacrificial for anything and everything that had to do with the house and the family and the children. With that said, so much sacrifice also meant sacrificing herself.
Yep.
So there was no time and no necessarily attention to herself. There were moments, there were spark moments, but it wasn't like an intentional portion of it.
Right.
Right. So what I learned was a lot of hardworking women in my family. So when I see my grandma and my aunts and stuff like that, they were hardworking, but all of it was, they were in the kitchen, they were working, they were all of that, but there was no time. Their children, their husbands, but no time for them. You didn't hear the family say, "I'm going to a spa."
No.
That wasn't something said.
What?
It just wasn't something that was said, right? Or I'm gonna go hang out or something like that. So I think in the female perspective, that's what I learned.
Okay.
So with that, when we're talking about that, right, then we got to be mindful of the situation and our conversation that may have stirred certain emotions because of the fact of our blueprint, right? So now we start getting into the facts that, well, now that we understand kind of where this blueprint came, now we kind of now we can kind of look and see and acknowledge where these emotions come from.
Yeah, the root cause.
Right. So now we get to the point where we start to understand, well, when XYZ happens, my voice elevates or I start screaming because this may have been something I seen in my household.
Definitely.
Right. Or I slam doors or throw dishes or something. I don't know. I mean, it could be totally different. Or you can go on totally to the opposite side, like you shut down.
Yeah.
I've done both.
Yeah.
I've done both. I mean, when I was younger, when I was angry, my temper showed. Now, when I get older, I may talk a little loud, but ultimately what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to shut it down. You know what I mean? Because I know where my temper can go. So
For me, I'm really starting to get in touch with my feelings now. So I'm starting to realize things that I've done in the past and what I've gone through and what I'm doing now to set apart, because some of them are issues.
right.
And I didn't realize that until recently, between, being on the show with you guys and also in my class that I'm taking on Tuesday nights. And we're really digging into it in there too. So it's like, wow, I'm getting double grinded here in my mind. So it's a reset for me.
Very nice.
So so would you say it then with that, right? Since you're going through this exploration kind of, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that because of how you handle situations before, your childhood attribute to that, whatever you saw in how maybe an adult handle a situation, you kind of mimic that as well?
Oh, yes, definitely. Because I used to hide a lot. I would just go in my room and just contemplate on, whatever I can, other than what my issue was.
There's a lot of men, and I know I keep referencing men, but that's me doing what I'm supposed to be doing. There's a lot of men who don't acknowledge their emotions. They don't have a blueprint to acknowledge their emotions.
Yes.
Right. So a lot of us men, we were, I'm going to just use it just for, the purpose of tonight. We were taught to shut down and keep it going, to ignore what we were feeling.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, but I think that's important because I think that part of what we see also as we keep growing, right? The millennials are a little bit different, but as you continue to see, and that's probably where some of the improvements are being shown, right? Because there's a lot of talk about self-improvement and how to develop and so on, and a lot of millennials are exposed to that, especially when they go to school and so on, or others, right?
Right.
It's also the culture, it's also the environment that you're at, right? So it's everything that you have been rooted with as you continue to grow in life. And so men have that kind of label of being shut down or don't communicate or don't speak or, kind of tough. And so it's a little bit I can see how the emotions are a little bit more, because you got to get in touch with that, right? So the emotions can be a little bit of a sticky area, quote unquote,
Yeah, it
where
can be.
it can be difficult to kind of get vulnerable.
Yeah.
you know?
It can be very sticky, especially if the guy is in a situation where the people around him, women, okay, is not, they don't understand what we're talking about. They don't understand, and the guy is not
Expressing it correctly.
his emotions the way they see fit.
Right.
You know what I mean? That could
Right.
be another area of opportunity, you know, and then the guy could get frustrated because he doesn't think like that, you know. So
Yep.
Right.
That's how it was for me.
yeah,
I mean, all through my relationship, I would just shut down and be like, okay, you take it.
I'm going
I'm
to play
done with it.
PlayStation.
Right. So that's
Xbox.
part of. So that's actually where it comes to where we need to acknowledge the emotion, right? We kind of have to sit back and find out what is that emotion, especially if you're not really in tune to that part, or you've never really sat down and analyzed it, acknowledge it, and then get to the point where you get to why did it cause that emotion? What is it about the situation or the person? What were those trigger points? What were those flags that I'll be able to identify that actually caused this emotion within me, right? And you get to dive deeper and answer, what is the root of that emotion? So the reason why we're saying that, because if you've never experienced, I went through therapy. I had to go through therapy. So I went through therapy, and one of the areas that they spoke of was this in particular, the emotion side of it. And I remember the therapist clearly telling me that the root of the emotion is not necessarily the reaction, right? So we react, we're having these actions that we're going about to kind of express the emotion that we're on, that we're actually experiencing. So for instance, there's this emotional wheel that they use, and then so they have different layers to it. And so just to be kind of brief, you guys can Google, it's an emotional wheel, and they use it, the therapists use it, the psychologists use it, counselors use
There's
it.
lots of them.
Yes, there's a lot. I got mine. It's printed. It's at home. So they talk about this emotional state you are in and how to be able to recognize that. So, for instance, you're frustrated, but that frustration came because, and this is going backwards, right? So your reaction is that you're frustrated, but that frustration came from anger. And then, so what did cause that anger is the point where it gets to. Because you go all the way because you got mad, right? So you got mad, you got you became angry, and then in the way for you to express it was in your frustration. So ultimately, you get to the root of, okay, so what actually made you mad? What was it that the person said? What is it that the person did? What was it about the situation that made you mad? Because it's not really that you're frustrated, it's that you're mad. You're mad about something.
Right.
You know, fam, and when you really sit back and you look at the wheel, like we talking about it, we're gonna see if we can put one up on our page, just so you guys could check it out. When you see the root cause, and it really gives you that aha moment. It really gives you that aha moment because you can really see truly how you feel about something.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, I was really mad about that. I wasn't, like Carmen just said, you weren't really frustrated. You were just mad. And when your perspective on these items change, how you handle them will change.
Yep.
And then you won't be, going forward, you'll be more mindful of how to handle these things. Where did that come from? Oh, I'm a Patriot fan.
Yeah,
Hashtag go Tampa.
it teaches you a lot. So that's the reason why we talk about therapy, right? Because if this is an area that kind of can help you it make you a bit more knowledgeable about your feelings or get you in tune with your feelings, we encourage it. Like Nichelle's saying she has one too. All right. We are the emotional wheel team.
Absolutely.
All right, Nichelle, we got this. I want to take a moment just as we continue to talk. I want to say hello to Anna and Faith and Izzy and Jody, who's on, and Stephanie, who said hello to us and waved to us. And she also has placed some input on here. She said we have to recognize those flaws and correct those behavioral bad habits. Absolutely. And she says she loves us. We love you too.
We love
We love you too.
So, family, we're talking about that because it's really important to be able to understand that. So, we've talked about the blueprint, right? We start that blueprint as a child. We get to learn actions and reactions based on what we see grown-ups do. And we kind of mimic them as we grow up, or we completely go to the opposite side, right? And if you're not speaking about emotions and all of a sudden you have anger, right? You have anger issues and you're really not dealing with that. A lot of
point, it's
people
building up.
physically take it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They physically take it out. So let's be mindful about that part. And we also talked about acknowledging those emotions, kind of rooting, going down to that root, using that emotional wheel. I recommend it. Therapy helped me with that. It also helped me how to speak. So just FYI, help me how to speak. You know how a lot of times we say, I feel like you are looking at me right now.
Yes.
That don't even sound like her. You know, look,
I feel, but a lot
I
of
just I just hit her with the side eye. What?
I feel like that didn't go well.
yeah, I feel like it didn't go well, right? That's a good example, right? But truly, what you're trying to say is not that you feel, because it's not something you're really feeling. So the way to actually explain that is, I understand by what you are telling me that there's a miscommunication between us. That's actually what you're trying to say. But we get into our feelings instead of truly explaining the facts of what's going on.
I'm just realizing that I'm doing this a lot.
Yeah.
Look, we're giving therapy today.
Yes.
But listen, this is truly what helped me.
Okay.
Like, it's truly what helped me because I had a lot of feels and a lot of feeling and a lot of thoughts, and I had to get down to the root of what was it and what is it that I'm truly trying to communicate, because it wasn't a feeling. It was something that I understood as, and it wasn't I feel this. So to get to all of that, right? So you find out all of this about yourself, and now you want to grow from where you're at to where you would like to go, where you can possibly be at, right? To all of that, to be able to extract all of that. So our tips for that are: surround yourself with people who can help you.
Yes. And call you out when
And call you out.
say something.
Accountability partners in a loving way, right?
Yes.
Because people who are your accountability partners are people who truly love you and know that you're trying to get somewhere. And don't be afraid to tell them, hey, I need you as an accountability partner.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Because
know,
they could be hurting too, and it could be helpful for both parties.
that's a great point.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how many people will take off their mask when they see you take off yours.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty powerful, Pastor. Very nice.
Oh.
Surround yourself with people who can mentor you and will help you not to go to your comfort zone. Because let's be honest, as Kevin was talking about in the manly manners, breaking old habits, right? It's easy for us to go to the comfort zone, no matter what we're doing.
Yeah.
You put an exercise routine, eating routine, or whatever you place out there, your goal. But when you get to the emotional part where you're trying to truly get to who you kind of like uproot all these learning that you have gone through in your life, and you get to that point where you have to be truly vulnerable, it's really easy to turn back and just get real comfortable in, I feel safe here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Behaving this way or acting this way, reacting this way or thinking this way helps me feel safe.
Yeah.
Right, but you know how we always say, right? There's no? Nobody with me?
Not yet.
There's no growth and comfort.
Oh, there you go.
You know, I thought
I
that's
was
what
like,
you was
where are
going.
you going?
I thought
You
that's
know,
what you was going.
I
but
thought they were in sync here.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
listen,
It's
I felt like that was going to be a trap. You know what I mean? And
wow. No trust. That's no trust. So getting to the word, it was one of our tips as well, right? Get to understand who you truly are
Yes.
in Christ. Get to know who he is so you can understand who you are, right? And being able to listen to what others have to share out of love, which is what Dan was talking about, especially if it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
I would say extra listen if it's uncomfortable, because that means when you're uncomfortable means there's an opportunity for growth.
Right.
Ooh.
And it's triggering.
yes,
Yeah, it's triggering that part where you're able to grow. And so since it's uncomfortable for you, you kind of want to like pull back and shut down and not listen, right? But when it's uncomfortable, that's the area where you can grow in.
Yep. Definitely.
Okay,
Learn a lot more about yourself when you get told like that.
right?
Yes.
So being consistent with what you are
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see if we're still on the same
Oh no,
page.
we're on the same page. You know, fam. Look, in everything that we do, you know, being consistent is a major part of it.
Yes.
You have to be consistent. All the suggestions that we've mentioned tonight, getting in the word, having people around you to support you, all of that takes consistency at some point. You know, if getting in the word is something that you need to work on, then you need to be mindful that, you know what, even if you need to take baby steps, you know what, I'm just going to read, you know, a scripture or two a night, but be consistent with it.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
And watch yourself develop, change into something far greater than you ever thought you could achieve.
To a permanent habit.
Yes,
to
it will
who
be. It
you
will be
are.
a permanent. It'll be natural.
Yeah.
Bring it
It'll be natural. Yeah.
It'll just be you. I want to take a moment and say hi to the family. I want to say hi to Titi Meanie, who is on, and Arlene as
Miss
well.
Arlene, hello.
And Keisha, who said I could listen to Carmen, y'all, and give advice all day.
That's what I'm
I
talking
love you.
about.
We love you too.
We love you guys too. If you guys could, fam, share the love. If you love the video, if you love the conversation that we're having right here at the table, fam, we ask that you share. Just hit the share button as many times as possible. Like I said before earlier in the show, if you like something that we said, or, you know, please show us the thumbs up, give us the hearts, and please feel free, fam. This is judgment free. Let us know. Jump in the comments section and let us know how you feel. What's going on with you? We're doing this together. Together,
Yes.
we are better.
Yes, very good. I like it. Keep going.
Amen.
Keep going. Be consistent with having people around you. Yeah, he's gonna be like, "What was that about?" Be consistent with having people around you, and what that means is don't isolate yourself, family. Don't.
No.
Just because you see something about you that can be improved, that doesn't mean you're defective. That doesn't mean that you're damaged. That doesn't mean that there's no value in you. Opposite. That means that you have learned so much about yourself that now you can move forward and progress. Being able to release that can take you into different experiences because you no longer have that holding you back. It's
Right,
no
right.
longer a barrier. I know for me, all the I feels was a moment in which everything I felt, I believe that I feel, just made me think that everything I was feeling, whether it was good, bad, or whatever, was truly something that was happening. You know, when actually it was just a misunderstanding. All we needed to do was talk about it. But I immediately took that into my head and made an assumption of it.
My mom always told me never assume anything,
Yeah.
Never.
and I still do.
But you know,
sometimes.
but what Carmen is going through and what she's speaking about is transparency.
Yep.
Yes.
It's transparency, fam. We have to do that. We have to become transparent with ourselves to really give ourselves love. because you gotta be honest with yourself. You gotta be honest with, who you have become through your past experiences, the blueprints that you pull from. But if to be better, a better person, it starts with being transparent, and then you can make the necessary changes, being consistent, of course, to become better.
Yeah, and that doesn't, what we want to say to just, regardless of the culture, regardless of who you grew up with, regardless of what you had in your life, that doesn't mean that's who you need to remain. Right. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it was negative. It doesn't mean that you had a bad childhood.
Right.
It just means that was something that wasn't necessarily done probably in their childhood. And so then that's also what they're showing here, right? So my mom not having to put herself first was definitely something she learned from her grandma, because I watched it. So I knew that was part of it, and I did the same thing with my children. There were certain things I did for myself, my nails, my pedicures, and stuff like that. But if they had a need first, I would just sacrifice me. If somebody else had a need first, I sacrificed me. That was immediate. There was no boundary for me, no healthy boundary. Because maybe what I needed to do at that moment was take a moment for me, read a book, and kind of decompress. But I didn't allow myself that because I had to always keep going.
Yeah, like reevaluate.
Right, because that's what I saw my maternal side do. Everyone who had to do, and the female perspective, that's what I learned. And there was nothing bad about that. That doesn't mean my mom's bad. She's actually very caring.
Right.
And very loving.
Very. Very.
Kevin loves it because he gets spoiled.
All the time.
He gets spoiled, super spoiled. But, and that's to say that's who she is.
Right.
That's a good point of her. That's who she is. She will give you everything. She'll take off her shirt and give it to you. And with no hesitation. That's my mom. Right?
That's pretty cool.
In a way. Yeah, that's who she is. So I have to learn the other side of it because I didn't learn that part. So that's not a negative,
right?
So I just want to put that out there because that's not at all what we're saying. I want to make sure and clarify that because it doesn't mean that. The other part that we need to also do is speak life into one another. And a lot of times we forget that we need to do that. First of all, the word tells us to, right? That's what God's word tells us to build and encourage one another. We always say it. But also to know that you have friends, right? If you are married, you're with someone, you want to be able to speak life into them, right? When they're feeling down, you should be that support. When you're feeling down, they should be that support. But you should have a group, a circle that also does that for you. Right. Friends you're able to pick up or text or whatever you need to do at that very moment to be able to speak life into you. Your parents. Sometimes you find it with your parents because as they've grown up in life, they
realize things.
They realize things too. And so they start making changes too. And so it's a beautiful thing, right? I keep talking about mom, but now that she's older, she's the one who encourages me, go to the spa, go do this, right? Because she realizes she didn't do that for herself.
Right.
So she wants to make sure that her daughter does that for herself. So those things, just speak life into one another.
Yep. For me, my parents were always there whenever I needed them, really, to be honest. However, now I'm realizing my dad, he's on the road all the time. He doesn't talk to anybody. So when he calls me, I used to be like, oh my gosh, my dad's calling again. But now it's like, oh my gosh, my dad's calling and I need to go. I need to call him or answer the call.
Right.
Where, that's what I know. That's how show love.
But us being, men of today, we can help change that mindset.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, whereas, your perspective when he used to call before, I'm in trouble. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
But now, when he does call, encourage him to call you as often as possible.
Yeah.
We're not promised tomorrow.
Right.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So encourage your family to call and call them.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
And it's meaningful. Like I get to see Kevin making intentional phone calls. Like he makes some. He reaches out to his dad, reaches out to his mom. I see him do that. And I'll call my mom, but I know if I call my mom, I'm gonna stay like an hour or two with her on the
Me
phone
too.
because we'll
My
start
dad.
laughing and joking, and we talk about everything and anything. So,
Especially Kevin.
but let me tell you something. When you grow older, you appreciate it, but they appreciate it more.
Right.
And we have to realize that, as Kevin's saying, we are not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not. Many people were not guaranteed when they were in a plane and they were on 9/11. The people in the building weren't guaranteed that tomorrow. And so from there, I said, you know what? There's no way I'm going to bed angry. There's no way I'm going to be in grievance with anybody because somebody can leave my sight right now and I won't be able to see them tomorrow. That's not a guarantee. So I know that we're talking about a lot and we're getting to that point. We just want to give you some pointers in regards to detaching life situations and our relationships you're attached to and are comfortable with, right? So part of self-love is to analyze whether there are things in your life or people that you need or you want. And so there's a difference between the two, right? There's a need and there's a want. And one of them you're probably really comfortable with. So it's a moment to be able to analyze that. And if you find yourself that you are not in a healthy situation or a relationship, then it's time to start releasing. You're not a healthy job. It's probably a time to start exploring other options, right? And there are certain steps that we can do to acknowledge that and to help us so it can make it less uncomfortable, right? And we can start doing consistent work towards that. So learning to say no, right? Embrace that word
I've mastered that.
and take back your time. Breathe deeply, and what that truly means is that take a few deep breaths when you're feeling overwhelmed, and don't allow your emotions to take over of the situation, or kind of get yourself into a place to regroup and remember the intent of what you are doing. If you find yourself, maybe step away, regroup, get back to it. Don't allow your emotions to take over. Stop over explaining yourself to others. You don't have to over explain yourself. Oh, why are you doing it? Why is it important? That's not what you meant. This is what you meant. Stop over explaining yourself to others. Let me explain this part right here. People's perspective is their reality.
Right.
And so no matter what you say, if their perspective is A, B, C, and you're trying to tell them it's really D, E, F, it's not going to change. That's their reality. So just be okay with that.
That was directed at me.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
She
even
didn't even look at you.
I didn't even look at him.
Yo, you don't
Is
even
someone
know.
feeling guilty?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
right? That's not me.
might need to
Watch
change that.
watch the times you say sorry. And what it means by that is reserve that word for a time where you actually are truly sorry. Don't just say sorry to kind of passive someone, right? Find the words that you're really trying to use and use them. Watch your words carefully and make sure that those are the best words to describe what you truly are going through. Create healthy boundaries. That actually shows people how to treat you. Okay, when you put those boundaries in place, it's going to take some time. If you don't have any boundaries, let me tell you something. The series of boundaries actually opened up my eyes. If you don't have boundaries, learn how to put some and start slow. Be smart about it. Create, like Kevin was talking about in his manly manners, create boundaries that are going to help to make your space sacred. But make sure you start slow, right? It's not like cut everybody off and that's a healthy boundary. That is absolutely not a healthy boundary.
No.
A healthy boundary is knowing who that person is in your life or what that job really means to you or what type of stress are you really going through, and knowing what's going to keep you from feeling or going through the emotions that you're going through and put you in a healthy place, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
Okay, feel your emotions, experience without judgment, without guilt, without shame what you are truly feeling, what you're truly going through, and allow yourself the process of releasing that and understanding the reasons why you have to release that. And what that means is, if you have to have a boohoo session, have it. I've had it. I've gone to the closet, just completely, whatever. But I was able to release whatever that emotion was in me and understand it. I also wrote a lot. I journaled a lot. And then later, after I had gone through my process, I was able to go back and go, what I was thinking? Like, but without having to necessarily verbalize it to anybody.
Yeah.
But I was able to write.
Because you can go back and say,
Well, it's also kind of like your stepladder, because it shows you where you were
right
at that moment, right? So I went through as everyone knows, a divorce of 18 years. So when I was going through that emotional stage, that emotional journey, there was a lot of emotions that was going on. And I wrote them. And I went back to that like a year later or so and was able to go, well, I'm not feeling that way no more. Or I've passed this.
Right.
And it's kind of like, oh, this is an area I still got to work on. Or why was I feeling that way? And it kind of gave me a little bit of perspective into myself. It kind of like a inward look of me, right?
Yep.
And give yourself the grace to try again when moments don't go as you plan, right? Accept the fact that you might have some setbacks, but allow yourself that opportunity to also go forward.
Yep.
Right? And progress. And in emotional stages, as we were talking about in comfort zone, they can be challenging. So be careful, be genuine with the people you keep around you, be transparent to yourself, remove what you need to remove situations or relationships out of your life, and continue to work on your emotions. Learn you. Here's a fun fact. Narcissistic, empathetic. Two different people. Narcissistic person is a person who they're the full center, but they have a way of manipulating your life and making you feel like you need to do stuff for them. And then at the same time, when something goes wrong, able to turn the finger back and analyze at you, right? So narcissistic people also know how to prey on empathetic people. Why? Because empathetic people, and this is psychology, empathetic people look at the potential of people. They want to help you. They want to nurture you. They're nurturers. They're carers, right? So they see the good, even there's probably no good, but they see that good. And they're empathetic, and so they want to help you on. They want to help grow you. So it's a realistic thing. There is a behavioral disorder called narcissism. And so they have this narcissistic who usually prey on empathetic. So these people won't go after confident people.
Right.
Right? They go over towards the person who gives you that opportunity, who is very submissive, who's willing to take the blame and stuff like that. I tell you because I was in that type of relationship.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I think everybody, if you're really transparent with yourself and really truthful for with yourself, everybody has been in a situation like that. You know what I mean? Whether you were the narcissist or you were the person that was empathetic. I think, depending on whatever role you had going on, what we're talking about, fam.
Yes.
Yep.
I want to say hi to Joselo, who he was waving hello, and to say that Keisha actually said, and narcissistic people take advantage of that quality. Absolutely. Yes. They take advantage of that quality. Here's the thing. When I found myself in that type of, I didn't know what narcissism was. I didn't know empathetic, right? I learned it through that relationship. But I found myself in a relationship. Well, that's what I was doing, because I was the empathetic person, right? As confident as it can be in my job and everything else, I'm also a nurturer and a carer, right? I learned that quality from my mom,
right?
Which I just, explained. So I look for the good. I'm always sacrificing, also always submissive, always trying to help and always trying to do. And he took advantage of that quality. But on top of that, what was scarier, and I say this hopefully, if you're in this type of situation, please find yourself a way out. It's not healthy. It's not healthy emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. If you can't do it by yourself, find someone who can help you get out. Find resources to do so, because what I found myself in was that relationship was now becoming to a point where it was going to get physical, and he was showing that in different ways, like throwing of the glass or slamming the door or certain other ways, or push here or whatever. So it was going to get physical, and in a moment he changed. So once they trap you, they change. There's a change about them. All of a sudden, they keep you nice and passive, and then all of a sudden they're like in this dark space.
Yep.
So we want to say that because there's healthy things about life, right? That necessarily is not a healthy thing. Being transparent with my process and everything I had to go through, I had to understand that this was not healthy.
Right.
So removing myself from that situation allowed me to then have to go back, because the empathetic person gets hurt.
Right.
The narcissistic person keeps on going.
Right.
They find the next victim.
The next prey.
They find the next prey, and they do it quick. The empathetic person gets hurt, and they get scarred, and it takes time for them to be able to heal. But through that process, I was able to learn about what it was, and I was able to meet Kevin. So, who was not narcissistic. And so he
Wow.
did his
That was for you, Michelle.
That's for you to show. And so what I'm saying is that sometimes even that uncomfortable space, because you want to kind of stay there depending on how long you've been in it, even in that comfort space where it's not healthy, when you become uncomfortable and release yourself from that, you get to the progressive stages and you actually find better, right? Better you, because you get to heal, and better other people around you who are able to support you and love you, and, you know, better relationships.
Exactly.
Amen.
And that family is part 3.
Thank you.
Wow.
Family, we know we've gone over a lot, and we thank the producer for allotting us this time. You know, she's family. So, but fam, you know how we do. This is my favorite segment of the show, where the First Lady simply breaks down the show, ties it all together with the Word of God. Okay, it's the most beautiful thing you will hear on the radio today. I promise you. Family, let me introduce you to Carmen's final thought.
Thank you, Dan, as always, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
He's our third part.
I know, right?
3 amigos. I was gonna say 3 musketeers, 3 amigos.
Wait, which one's worse?
No
Just
trust.
roll-
No
just
trust.
roll
We're
with
gonna
it.
have to have the conversation later. After the show, we're having a conversation.
Oh boy.
On the way to Fuddruckers. Okay.
Hey, family, thank you for listening to the show, for giving us your input. The family who's out on the chatterbox, thank you so much for listening and giving us an opportunity to get into your emotional journey and whatever experiences you have gone through. We hope that learning a little bit about the emotional wheel and understanding a narcissistic and empathetic as examples, going back and kind of looking at your blueprint and kind of analyzing you and acknowledging your emotions will help you look in the mirror and have that moment with yourself where you're transparent and able to see the areas that might be of opportunity where you're able to grow them, right? And as we were saying, those comfort zones, look at them as well and make sure that they're healthy for you, that they're actually taking you into a progressive place where you are mentally, spiritually, emotionally growing, and you see yourself actually finding yourself with a lot more love and peace, and you're able to feel someone's support and understand that what you give to them, you're also receiving. And that's kind of right where the word tells us, do unto others as you wish them to do unto you, right? So in area to be able to receive back, and sometimes we're not able to receive from them, but we'll receive it from God. The Lord will make sure that what you do for others, he will reward in return, because that's really what it's about. His love is great. And when we look at his word and we understand who he is, we get to understand who we are too. Right? A lot of times we think about self-love as being egotistical or an arrogant thing, or we can confuse it as that, but actually it's our opportunity to show our appreciation to God for creating us. It is an appreciation moment of giving us the opportunity to be able to grow mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, and be able to understand that we also can transfer and give that to others as well, because as long as we're healthy, we're also able to provide that to others as well, right? We talked about it on the first show, how the airplane, when they're going through their emergency landings and the oxygen mask comes out, and when you're with a child, the first person who gets the oxygen is you, not your child. But in our lives, in the way we've grew up, or at least in my sharing, right, my mom would probably gave that to me, but in essence, she had to be okay in order to take care of me. The same way God wants you to be able to take care of you, so you can understand what it's like to love someone else, so you can understand what the type of love he gives us, right? That kind of love that says love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, it does not boast, on 1 Corinthians 13:4-8. That's the type of love he's talking about. The type of love that says, I created this full earth, and I knew I needed one of you. I needed one of Kevin, one of Dan, one of Nat, one of Carmen, one of all the family in GFR who's listening to us. You were needed in this earth. And that's the appreciation we can say, is that regardless of what our journeys have been, no matter what we have gone through, they eventually are used for good, because Romans 8:28 tells us that the Lord says, I will use all things for good. Right? And a lot of times to say, for those who have been called and love God, but it's that part that loves God that is important, to be able to understand that he will turn around your messes into messages, and your tests into testimonies. 1 Corinthians 13:13 says, and now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. So learn love. Learn what that truly is, because it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's an action. And you get to see that love and by what God has done for us, what others do for us, and what we do for them. Hey family, you know how we always do. We celebrate the one and only. Today it's no different, and we do so with our indie artists of the month, their song from Vertical Perspective, Hallelujah, What a Savior. But before we do, we want to leave you with these thoughts.
Family, you don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to be great.
And be a blessing today to make an impact tomorrow. Just think about that. You're a blessing today, but you're impacting someone's life tomorrow. How about we start with being a blessing with yourself and making an impact in your own life for tomorrow?
Amen.
Good stuff.
Thank you, fam. We love you. We ask that if you receive something from this show, fam, and got a pretty good feeling that you did, share that love. Hit the share button. Turn somebody that you know onto this show, to Grown Folks Radio. Let's grow the family. Together we are better. We love you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week. Good night, family.
Bye.
Stands that felt the pain, for the blood that flowed from Emmanuel's vein. I gave you praise for the crown of thorns that you came to wear, for the stripes of the whip you made to bear. I gave you praise. You formed the star, and your visage, Lord, was smart. the time that you humbled yourself for me when you were led like a lamb to Calvary. I honor you. Thought of me before I was ever born. Then you took my place, my shame, my scorn. I honor you, Lord. I don't understand through the madness of your plans. You would give up heaven's best for us birth. Hallelujah, what a Savior. Hallelujah, I praise you, Lord. Here I am in full surrender. You are mine and I say hallelujah. What a Savior. Hallelujah, I praise you, Lord.